Let's come to reason number 4. What does God think about polygamy? So I want you to come with me to Deuteronomy chapter 17. Deuteronomy 17. Verse 14. Deuteronomy 17, verse 14. And this is so fascinating. David would have had this, and he should have actually followed what he was supposed to do. Deuteronomy 17, verse 14. When you enter the land the Lord your God is giving you, and have taken possession of it and settled in it. So when you enter into Israel, the promised land, and you take possession of it, which occurred under Joshua, and you say, let us set a king over us like all the nations around us. And that's what they did in 1 Samuel. They suddenly wanted now kings, and they got King Saul first. Then they're going to get David. Verse 15, be sure to appoint over you a king the Lord your God chooses. He must be from among your fellow Israelites. Do not place a foreigner over you, one who is not an Israelite. The king, moreover, must not acquire great numbers of horses for himself, or make the people return to Egypt to get more of them, for the Lord has told you, you are not to go back that way again. Verse 17, he must not take many wives, or his heart will be led astray. He must not accumulate large amounts of silver and gold. Now let's stop for a second here. It says he must not take many wives, but it doesn't say what that is. So this is where women, we are going to take a scientific survey this morning that's going to answer the question for all time. How many of you women think that your husband having 2 wives or a wife and a girlfriend is one too many? Raise your hand. Let's take this survey here. Okay, I think it looks like 100% of the women believe that having 2 wives is one too many. So when David is told, don't collect wives, some say, well, he wasn't bad as Solomon. Actually, there isn't that many people in the Old Testament that were polygamists. So there was Abraham, and I'm going to blame women for that one. All right? You remember Sarah, I can't have a child. You can marry my servant girl. Oh, Abraham, don't listen. Don't listen. Then you have Jacob. What a mess. He thinks he's marrying Rachel. Surprise! You got another wife. All right, so I get him. He's, that's not the woman I was to marry. I was to marry Rachel, not Leah. All right, we'll give you Rachel too. So now he's got 2 wives. The one wife, I can't have any kids. Why don't you marry my nursemaid? A 3rd wife, yikes. And then Leah, wait, I want some more. You marry my nurse too. And so he winds up with 4 wives, but I'm still blaming the women on that one. And his father-in-law. And then basically we just know David and Solomon. We know that Saul had a girlfriend. Some of them had girlfriends. But for the most part, they had 1 wife. David, you should have had 1 wife. Because here, let's read on. Don't take many wives. And as we know, 100% of the women here believe that 2 wives is too many. And I don't think the women were any different back then than they are today. Verse 18, when he takes the throne of his kingdom, he is to write for himself on a scroll a copy of this law, taken from that of the Levitical priest. So King David would have written his own copy of this section of the law. Now, how often was he to look at it? Verse 19, it is to be with him, and he is to read it all the days of his life. I'm in Deuteronomy 17. You with me? So how often is he to read this? Every day of his life. So anytime he's got 1 wife, anytime David's thinking, maybe I should have a 2nd wife, he should be reading this in the morning for his daily devotions. And God goes, don't take many wives. And he should have said, okay, you know what? I better just say with the one wife I got from the Lord. He is to read it all the days of his life so that he may learn to revere the Lord his God and follow carefully all the words of this law and these decrees. And not consider, this is very interesting, verse 30 or verse 20. And not consider himself what? Better than his fellow Israelites and turn from the law to the right or to the left. Then he and his descendants will reign a long time over his kingdom in Israel. Well, both him and Solomon didn't follow it, and the kingdom was taken from them. See, men, sometimes we begin to feel more privileged than the common man. We get more powerful. We become CEOs. We become wealthy. And it goes to our heads. And we begin to feel that we deserve 2 wives. We're not like the common person. God's blessed me with great intelligence and power and authority. Obviously, I deserve 2 wives and maybe a girlfriend or 2 on the side. And God's telling David, don't think. Don't let that come over you. The regular person had 1 wife. Don't get to the point, men, where you start thinking, I can have a wife and a girlfriend at work and maybe a girlfriend over here, another concubine. Because obviously God's blessing me, and I need 3 women. Start thinking that way. You are in big, serious trouble with pride